Hey you! After my last video managed to outperform my previous best at 200 times the speed, I've become the ultimate tiny YouTube channel. So I've decided to... Okay, look, Sonic X Shadow Generations has arrived to great success, and seeing the love for Shadow the Hedgehog's character got me thinking about Shadow the Hedgehog 2005. You know, the game with the cartoon hedgehog holding a gun and pumping an SMG in the opening cinematic and boom, boom, bam, hell yeah, you blast those wretched humans, Shadow. Okay, I'm going to start this video with a hot take that is getting colder by the second. Shadow the Hedgehog 05 isn't that bad. Hard_pretzel has a great video showing how the majority of gameplay complaints seem to be a combo of not knowing that a strafe button exists and misunderstanding the role of the guns and vehicles, and Maud Weil has made a couple of videos expressing their love for good old Edgy the Hedgy that I would recommend. My personal take on Shadow the Hedgehog? Gameplay wise, I prefer it to Hero's speed characters. No really. Shadow's slipperiness can be cancelled by strafing, the gunplay is implemented near perfectly into a Heroes or Adventure style game, and the vehicles, okay, aside from the Sorcerer and Jumper, they do suck. But honestly, we need to accept that most of us just saw the gun-toting hedgehog and dismissed the game at face value. However, I like this game so much that after gathering footage for the video, I straight up played the expert mode for fun. It just hits the spot for me like that. Maybe it's my hyperfixating ass, maybe it's just better than everyone remembers. However, I will agree with the critics on one thing. While the multiple paths system is great thematically and fits with the amnesic Shadow of seeking answers, fucking hell, it's a mess. Why does Black Doom trust you to pull off the bombing of Central City when literally last mission you helped Eggman ruin their plans? Why does helping Tails save the president make Shadow think he's a robot? Why does waiting until Sonic snags an emerald on Space Gadget enable you to get the same emerald regardless, just less heroically? Never explained, it's plainly just strung along with the rationale of, dude, you see the mission map, just accept that's what's happening. This video is an attempt to make this multiple branching path system make more sense narratively. But before I start, I want to make a disclaimer and explain how I'll structure this video. First things first, this isn't me saying, these writers suck and my version is the superior version because I'm a genius writer. Sonic Team's writers likely had to deal with level objectives and other shit constantly in flux. They would have a Japanese businessman yelling over their shoulders telling them to meet deadlines, then the translation team would have to get the Japanese shit translated to English, and the voice actors changed cast mid-production, except for Omega for some reason, and all this for an incredibly ambitious multiple choice system with limited resources on your tiny little DVD or mini disc and studio mandates preventing certain writing decisions. Point is, I'm not saying they should have done this, or that I'm so smart for thinking of this shit. I'm here years later, no deadline, no studio mandates, just writing Sonic fanfiction. So that's what this should be seen as, a fun writing exercise. Now for this video structure. I'm going to go through each stage, explain what the potential entry points to them are on the story map, and how I'd approach any transitions into them. Then I'll go over any tweaks or outright replacement of missions that I'd go for, along with general notes on how each mission character's demeanour might be tweaked and any changes to Shadow's ending remarks. Finally, I'll go over the connective tissue, bridging the mission outcome to the next level. I didn't actually need to reposition any of the levels on the story map, so that's one less thing to worry about. Also, naturally, I'll be elaborating on and tweaking the 10 endings, and in some cases the final bosses entirely. Without further ado, let's move on to everyone's played at least 10 times stage 1, Westopolis. Oh, Westopolis. Get a lot of hate from the fans, but honestly it's just overexposure. Even I, the hyper-focusing madman who got the footage for this video done in less than a week while balancing a full-time job, can admit that, yeah, playing the same first stage 10 times when a typical Shadow playthrough is around 2 hours will get tiresome. However, aside from this unavoidable facet of Westopolis, I actually love everything about this stage. It sets the tone perfectly by starting not in Emerald Coast or Seaside Hill, but a radical highway-style metropolis, this time under attack by edgy aliens. And the music? The music's fire. The entrance to this level is mostly fine, it's just an introduction to the premise of the game more than anything. Shadow's contemplating his past, which has clearly come back to him in pieces since his amnesic Sonic Heroes days, and he still has a somewhat bio-essentialist view of himself it's akin to Adventure 2 or Sonic Battle. He wants to know why he was made so he can fulfill a stated purpose rather than simply living life. Then an alien invasion happens. Shadow is understandably reluctant to help gunfight back given everything they've done to him, and Black Doom shows up during an emotionally vulnerable time. However, I think of him saying, "Shadow, the promised time is here. and Shadow being like, "Okay, I'ma bring him the emeralds to learn my past." Instead, have Black Doom bring up the Professor explicitly. Have him just straight up say,
"Shadow, Professor Gerald and I had a deal. I trust you know what you must do. Bring me the emeralds, as promised."
Then Shadow, confused by the Gerald name drop, will decide to gather the emeralds. Not necessarily to give it to Black Doom right away, but because clearly times are shifting and collecting the emerald seems like a prudent course of action. Onto the missions themselves. They're all fine. Seriously, down to the intros, they're fine. Shadow goes in neutral, though I'd tweak his dialogue to not be about fulfilling the promise, but instead something like, "Promise time? Emeralds? If those aliens are after the emeralds, I'd best take them for myself." Establish that the neutral path Shadow isn't exactly pro-Doom. Otherwise though, meeting Sonic and him wanting to kick these invaders' asses is fine, as is Black Doom being his entitled bitch-ass self with,
"You are late, Shadow."
The mission objectives are fine in concept too, unlike the legions of complainers who say that, "Oh, you shouldn't have to kill all of these things." No, you have to choose a faction. It makes sense to me. Maybe we should add a bit of redundancy so that you don't have to kill every single one because, that is a bit much for a first level. But choosing a side and killing a bunch of faction, yeah, that makes sense to me. Though, I will give the critics something, maybe change the hero mission completion quote to be something other than disgusting black creatures. I mean, come on localization team, you knew better even in 2005. Finally, let's move on to the connective tissue. This is where some actual tweaks need to be made, but even then we're not looking at much on Westopolis' side. The dark path to digital circuit works mostly fine. Black Doom sees Shadow kicking gun ass and tells him that he's glad he can rely on the Professor's efforts after all. He then plainly tells him that he's going to transport him into the gun mainframe and that he expects him to throw the world into disarray by destroying the mainframe. As Shadow isn't in a fully dark state yet, Shadow will question what his vendetta against Gun is, and Black Doom will cockily claim,
"The same as yours,"
setting the seeds that he's about using anti-human rhetoric to get Shadow on his side. Neutral, meanwhile, can basically be left unchanged. Black Doom will be like,
"What the fuck, bro? I told you to kill the soldiers."
And Shadow being like, "Yeah, but I wanted the emeralds." Then Black Doom will say that preparations beyond his comprehension have been laid in place, and that if he wants a demonstration, he'll show him, teleporting him to Glyphic Canyon. Finally, the hero path is the one that needs the most tweaking. After seeing Shadow kicking Black Arm's ass with Sonic, Doom's Eye should not be showing up, assuming Shadow is friendly, and straight up telling him that he and the Black Arms are leaving. Instead, Shadow and Sonic can have their banter, then see the evacuation ship just there, like have the evacuation ship from Lethal Highway just there, see a bunch of Black Arms going in, and voila. At that point, Sonic says something along the lines of, "Normally I'd hate to kick folk while they're down, but I'll make an exception for these aliens." And then Shadow will smirk and say something like, "Kicking people when they're down is fine by me." Then they head off to Lethal Highway. On to the second stages now, and there's 3 in all. Digital Circuit, Glyphic Canyon and Lethal Highway. True to the game's expert mode, we're going to start Darkest first, which means Digital Circuit. Whenever people complain that Out of the Edge is too grungy or brown-grey, I always assume they haven't played Digital Circuit or Mad Matrix, because if anything, those levels are absolute bloomfests. Most of the time to fun effect, but I'd be lying if I said the colours weren't overwhelming at points. Still, I love Digital Circuit. There's all the fun gimmicks of the Shadow 05 digital levels without the issues that Mad Matrix later brings, and the stakes are well established. You're in Gun's mainframe, and you can choose to obliterate the damn internet. As always, we'll structure with entrance tweaks, then missions, then connective tissue. As I said, I think the connection between Westopolis and Digital Circuit is fine for the most part, just with the addition of Black Doom implying misanthropy, rather than conquest being his goals, so he can bond with Shadow, like a good father and son. Once entering the level, despite there being only a hero and dark mission, there's a few neutral Shadow remarks before meeting Doom's Eye. They can stay, they're just valid observations that being in a digital form is kinda weird. The missions are also mostly fine. Black Doom wants to destroy Gun's network and Rouge wants the Chaos Emerald transferred to a person she deems trustworthy. From there, however, there's some missed opportunities for discussion on their respective aims or thoughts on the digital world. I think Black Doom should brag about his ability to transmit his soldiers into digital form, perhaps even winking and nudging at Shadow's heritage with a
"Just like I did with you"
comment. I also think he should say something like,
"Our worms are especially adept at destroying digital systems,"
as a little computing joke. The hero mission should have a few tweaks in the writing. Rouge ought to be surprised that Shadow is the mainframe, maybe not outright suspecting him, but definitely confused as to why the hell he's here. Despite this, she'll trust Shadow to get the emerald out of a place infested with black arms. Similarly, the ending quote should be changed to reflect he's doing this, at least in front of Rouge, as a way to indirectly help Gun or fuck the black arms over. No, sorry, I'm taking this emerald. Instead, I won't let the black arms take this emerald. Alright, time for the connective tissue. The Dark mission brings Shadow to Cryptic Castle and in my opinion should work as an escape the collapsing area scene. Black Doom is like,
"Well done, Shadow. This digital realm is collapsing. Let me transport you to the base of another nuisance."
and naturally referring to Eggman. This will tie into my changes to Cryptic Castle. Meanwhile, for the hero mission, Rouge will lead Shadow to an exit terminal that leads to Prison Island, what she deems to be a remote enough place for the time being. She thanks him and before she leaves gives him a tip. She's pretty sure another emerald is on the island. She even gives her express permission to take it if he's collecting them before flying off. Now for the neutral stage 2, Glyphic Canyon. Honestly, of all the levels, this one might live up to the generic butt metal and brown environment Shadow 05 stereotype the most. I still think there's some charm to it though, generally involving the ancient aliens-ass lore implications and how batshit crazy and kind of hilarious they are, especially from the Black Arms perspective. Like Black Doom, my guy. You've been preparing this invasion for 2 millennia, your comet shows up every 50 years and yet you waited around as humanity's tech advanced to the point that they could feasibly push back, and now you're begging this unreliable hedgehog OC that you commissioned, and hope that he activates the shit your soldiers are apparently having trouble with. You're not as smart as you think you are, Doomy boy. The connection from Westopolis is altered a little so that Black Doom is explicitly trying to show Shadow the extent of his preparations in response to Shadow's apathy, so I think Doom's Eye should be pretty much around from the start. Shadow wakes up gripping his head and Doom's Eye is all like,
"These ruins belong to the Black Arms. Oh, and there's an emerald here too."
Entitled as ever, he'll then demand that in exchange for letting him have the emerald and as compensation for screwing up in Westopolis, he should awaken the temples. This would frame the act of pausing and switching to neutral as effectively saying, "Thanks for the information, Black Doom. Time to take the emerald without doing that." For the missions themselves, the objectives and faction rep are fine. Knuckles as a treasure hunter works as being on the ruins, however I definitely think he'd be more neutral to Gun than protective. All the same, when meeting Knuckles, he effectively tells Shadow that he can feel the emeralds on him, figures he's looking for another emerald, and offers to let him have it if he helps clean house regarding the aliens. Ending quotes should be altered a little to reflect the slight change in circumstances too. For Dark it'll be, "Let's see what preparations Black Doom has made." For neutral it should be, "Thanks for the tip, Black Doom, but I don't owe you anything." And for the hero it's, "The Black Arms won't reawaken anything on my watch." And finally, connective tissue. For Dark to Cryptic Castle, Black Doom will be satisfied with Shadow's work and says,
"If you wish to further live up to your purpose, there is a pest I need crushing. An egotistical and foolish scientist."
Shadow will immediately know he's referring to Dr. Eggman and agrees to come along with the Black Arms invasion of his castle base. But to what end? That's for the player to decide. For neutral into Prison Island, Shadow will be admiring the emerald he just collected when he overhears a gun soldier he's heard mention that they should be safe provided the Black Arms don't learn about what they're storing on Prison Island. This will trigger a flashback about his time there in Sonic Adventure 2, and he'll head off to investigate what lies there. Hero into Circus Park will have Knuckles thank Shadow for his hard work, and then he says that if he's after all the emeralds, he's pretty sure Eggman has one, and that Tails is on his way to storm one of his bases that could have it. Hilariously, this is going to be another case of Knuckles obliviously screwing over his friends, because actually, the Chaos Emerald is with Tails and is powering the tornado. Figuring it's as good a lead as any on that damn 4th Chaos Emerald, Shadow will head to Circus Park. Hero Stage 2, Lethal Highway, is fun overall, but the crown jewel is definitely the hero mission. Chasing a black armed warship through a highway that's getting destroyed as you go is a fantastic and neat little challenge, until you unlock the Shadow Rifle and turn it into Swiss cheese. It's a dynamic little level that justifies gunplay in lots of little ways, like the death leeches all over the road and the gun beetles that linger over bottomless pits, but aren't homing attack bridges. Only 2 missions here, just like Digital Circuit. So the only entry is from going hero on Westopolis, and as I mentioned in that level's connective tissue, Shadow is essentially treating the Black Arms as hostile invaders and is completely willing to kick them while they're down by chasing down the retreating ship and destroying it, if he goes hero. To fit with this, I think Sonic should be with Shadow from the beginning, much as Doom's Eye would be for Glyphic Canyon. Doom's Eye being the first mission rep you see just doesn't make sense after Shadow turned around and fucked him over. When you do meet Black Doom, however, he should be like,
Shadow, your traitorous actions will not go unpunished unless you help us retreat from the city. Our forces are needed in liberation efforts beyond it.
Which is hinting at Prison Island. I think it's worth making Black Doom extra copy in this level, talking about how he's done with the city and all that shit. Also, the ending remarks for both feel a little too committed for Stage 2. Doc should be something like, I don't know who he is, but he could prove useful. And Hero should be a cocky, did you think this planet wouldn't fight back? Less moralizing, more Sonic-style cockiness. Connective tissue is where a major excision happens. Specifically, if you do the Dark mission, Black Bull will not be fought because, Shadow did just do what Doom's Eye told him to. For Dark, Black Doom will follow up on the hinted Liberation mission, telling Shadow to board their transport to Prison Island. Meanwhile with Sonic, he'll be happy with Shadow's work, and when Tails picks him up with a tornado, he asks him to join him in storming one of Eggman's bases, a weird old circus, and while Shadow refuses, he notices that Tails has a Chaos Emerald in the tornado. He takes note of it and decides to follow them until he's in a position to steal it without hurting Sonic or Tails. Basically, joining their mission anyway, but for anti-heroic missions and not on their terms. On to the Stage 3s, and the darkest of the bunch, Cryptic Castle, is one of the main reasons I wanted to take on this project. Specifically, I never understood why the only possible route to Central City, the level where Black Doom trusts Shadow enough to do a terrorism with him, involves you taking a dark mission right before, as you directly oppose the Black Arms on Eggman's behalf. The level itself is really fun, but man, the missions just make no sense on the overall story map. So this is a level with a lot of mission tweaking, sticking to a consistent philosophy I'll take in this video, that Eggman missions will bring you closer to neutral on the story map where possible. First, let's cover the possible routes in, Glyphic Canyon Dark and Digital Circuit Dark. Fitting with the fact you have to be roughly Black Doom aligned no matter what, Black Doom has brought Shadow here, so it makes sense that he'd be introducing the level. He'd explain that this castle has been retrofitted by
the foolish scientist
to be a high-tech base, and he doesn't want Eggman acting as potential resistance. Furthermore, he notes that there's a Chaos Emerald in the area, likely just to motivate Shadow a little more. However, just before Shadow sets off, he sees Eggman passing and overhears him mentioning that his grandfather's log should be fully digitized now. But before he can think too hard about that, Black Doom is like,
that is unimportant. Get to work.
Now for the missions. As promised, they're changing a lot. Specifically, while it cuts out a cute save the cat moment for Shadow, there will no longer be an Amy and Cream hero mission. Instead, we start off with the Dark mission working for Doom's Eye. Let's say it's something like,
destroy the elite defensive robots.
And you have to destroy a few egg wizards from Sonic Heroes' spooky levels, and destroying them opens up alternative routes similar to lighting the lanterns. That means that yes, the hero mission is what was originally the Dark mission, working with Eggman to raise the castle's defences using his lantern systems. Finally, the neutral route is once again taking on the vibe of a Shadow that's taking advantage of Black Doom, where he's like, thanks for the teleport, but I have a use for the Doctor's base. His neutral goal is to find Eggman's computer and access information about his past, while also finding the Emerald. Also, the minimal involvement of Eggman in prior levels means that his original ending remark for the Dark turned hero mission is a little off. One step closer implies there were steps before. Hence, the Dark remark should be, I can't afford to let the Doctor interfere with Black Doom's plans. Neutral should be, the Doctor's computer. Let's see what I can find. And hero should be, I have a use for the Doctor. The Black Arms will not have him yet. Finally, let's talk connective tissue. The dark path into Central City now makes more sense on the face of it thanks to the mission change, but let's explain the escalation a little. Black Doom will be most pleased, bragging about how
the foolish scientist will no longer be a factor,
and that it's time to
truly test your resolve.
He asks Shadow straight up, would he like revenge? Shadow, clearly willing to betray the Doctor and humanity at large, says yes. Neutral path into the Doom will have Shadow access the Doctor's files to find it's all regarding the Ark incident, and Shadow becomes full of bitterness and sadness, leaving him vulnerable to Black Doom's manipulation. For both Dark and Neutral, Shadow will also fight the Eggbreaker for that damn 4th Chaos Emerald. For the hero path into Sky Troops, Eggman will thank Shadow for helping him, and even gives him the 4th Chaos Emerald as compensation, dismissively remarking that he's heard he's collecting them. He then tells him that unfortunately the Black Arms won't be done just yet, and his research implies they have a great physics-defying fleet that is somehow already planet-side. Perhaps if Shadow went the path of Glyphic Dark into Cryptic Castle hero, he'll chuckle knowingly to himself. Neutral Stage 3, Prison Island, has always been a fun level to me for one big reason. It's the potential start of the chaotic subplot run. That is, helping Charmy with the secret discs in Prison Island, helping Espio right after with his data extraction in Mad Matrix, and then going neutral in Lost Impact to reach Cosmic Fall, so he can help Vector find the computer room! It's also a level that uses vehicles to great effect via the toxic waterways and Black Arm sources. In general, it's also nice to see a hero rep who is ostensibly stealing from Gun. It's good when the hero reps remember that Gun hasn't exactly been on their side that often, given how often they seem to simp for Gun in this game. Without further ado, let's talk about potential entries. There's 3 for Prison Island. Either working with Rouge to extract the emerald from Digital Circuit, screwing Black Doom over again by ignoring his demands in Glyphic Canyon, or escaping Lethal Highway with the Black Arms. For the first scenario, Rouge should give Shadow some pointers about a Chaos Emerald in the area, trusting him not to do much damage beyond acquiring the emerald. For the second, Shadow will enter, only to have Doom's Eye following him there, incensed that he's been disobeyed twice, and tells him to
aid in the liberation of our brethren, if you wish to be worthy of your past and purpose.
While in the Lethal Highway scenario, Black Doom will do much the same, only marginally less angry at him, though naturally somewhat distrustful given the Westopolis situation. Missions though? Honestly, they can stay the same, only with additional remarks on both sides. For Dark, Black Doom will angrily proclaim that
those wretched humans proved more tenacious than expected,
but also that
their hopes to extract Black Arm's information are futile. They shall regret ever sparing us.
Naturally, you'll celebrate with every mech destroyed and every Black Arm freed. Perhaps an additional part of the mission could be blasting open cell doors to free Black Arm soldiers. Neutral will be the usual grab the emerald without bothering anyone, that tracks perfectly fine with me, but there will be plenty of connective tissue to add. With Charmy, just generally have him hint in his own silly way that the Chaotix are looking into the Ark incident. Perhaps occasionally he'll be blatantly seeking information, I mean he is a kid after all. So, for example, if you destroy Gunmax, instead of getting upset, he'll instead ask accidentally insensitive questions like,
"Hey, so why are you so mad at Gun anyway?"
Moving to connective tissue. For Dark into the Doom, Black Doom will straight up not need to find a vulnerable Shadow. He's already there, he's just helped Doom's Eye pull a prison break. And after that, Black Doom straight up asks,
Hey Shadow, would you like some insight into your past? It'll make you hate humans more.
From there, the Doom plays out. For Neutral into Sky Troops, Shadow will take his damn 4th Chaos Emerald, then notice a gun computer nearby giving off a loud blaring alarm. There's not one national security risk, but 2, both with insane aerial fleets. The Black Arms and the Eggman Empire are at war in the sky. Finally, hero into Mad Matrix will have Shadow happy with his 4th Emerald, Charmy happy with his secret discs, and he lets the Chaotix' mission slip even more by being like,
"Hey, so those discs are related to a big investigation you could help a lot with. We've got what we need from Gun, and Espio is trying to get what we need from Eggman's computer right now."
Shadow, curious as to what could unite a gun base's info with Eggman's info other than the Ark, plays along with Charmy, saying they might be able to work a way into the good doctor's systems. What's the most heroic stage 3 again? Ah yes, it's the one where Shadow says, "Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?" And while it is the best line in fiction, because of my tweaks to the roots in Glyphic Canyon Hero or Lethal Highway Hero, I've actually rendered the line redundant. Suddenly I'm having doubts about the whole video. Seriously though, I love Circus Park. Silly tune mixed in with the vamp guitar, the incorporation of gunplay into the shooting minigames for the ring collecting hero mission, the generally bright and fabulous vibes you'd expect of an Eggman theme park, it's all very cool. Honestly, not much had changed here. All in all, it's a very good level. As mentioned before, you're entering from either Glyphic Canyon Hero or Lethal Highway Hero. In both cases, I've had it so Shadow has tracked the tornado to Circus Park, either from a well-meaning tip from Knuckles, or from him playing it cool with Sonic before surreptitiously following him. All I'll change is Tails now has a person to talk to when he remarks on the park being built with stolen rings, that is Sonic, who will jump down and presumably work to set Eggman back in his own section of the park. Then, inevitably, Tails crashes the tornado, which Shadow will see as his opportunity to take the plane's emerald. The missions are fine. Hero Shadow will see Tails, knowing he's about to take the kid's emerald, and figures he should at least help him take down Circus Park via stealing rings from it. Neutral Shadow just wants Tails' emerald ASAP, and so rushes through the park before Tails or Sonic can confront him on the theft. Dark, meanwhile, should be implied to be motivated by a shared resentment of Gun with Eggman, along with generally defending a potential information source. Eggman's quotes when defeating Gun's forces adds to this flavour. However, seeing as he's still just going neutral from a heroic path by helping Eggman, I think the Dark Mission ending quotes should be toned down. A Shadow at this point of the story map should not be like, disgusting humans. I think that, once again, he should be channeling a Dark Sonic-ish vibe and be a little snarky. Doesn't Gun have bigger things to deal with than theme parks? Moving on to the connective tissue. Dark into Sky Troops will have a thankful Eggman laugh as Shadow takes the tornado's emerald for himself, saying the kid may be a genius but he's no himself. He'll then bluntly tell Shadow that he's glad he's here to help. He needs every robot he can get to fight the Black Arms. He then asks him if he's willing to help him take down the alien armada, and with dubious sincerity, Shadow will agree, leading to Sky Troops. Neutral into Mad Matrix will involve Shadow taking the tornado's emerald in secret, and stumbling upon a computer terminal room, where he finds none other than the Chaotix attempting to gain access. Hero into Death Ruins will have Shadow be, honestly, a bit of a dickish hero. He'll swipe the emerald from the wreckage right in front of Tails, and when he protests, he says he just did him a massive favour. Next time, fly safe. Tails, a little put off, asks what he's going to do with the emeralds, and Shadow says he's going to send the black aliens straight to hell. At which point Tails will say if that's the case he'd best head into the jungle. Gun has currently driven them into a corner. Shadow seems reluctant to directly aid Gun, only for Tails to add a little extra sugar. He hears Rouge is helping out. Begrudgingly, Shadow goes to check things out. Central City! The darkest of the Stage 4s, and as I mentioned, its only route in via Cryptic Castle Dark was one of my big motivators to waste the limited time I have on planet Earth, apply my creativity to this video. Central City as a level, however, is a fun and unique scenario for a Sonic game in that there's no sign to spin, no goal ring. Instead it takes advantage of the free roaming style of the adventure games to make an experience reminiscent of the Knuckles and Rouge treasure hunting levels, only with alien terrorist bombings. Not sure exactly why Knuckles says sucking up the smaller bombs will deactivate the bigger ones, when Black Doom himself says the bombs will run dry and not explode over time unless detonated by gunfire, but to an extent we can forgive that shit for a good pair of objectives. Still, Black Doom, why did you make the bombs like this? You know human bombs don't do this, right? They count down and go off unless defused. You had a 2,000 year head start and your alien faction lives for terrorism. How are you so bad at this? So there's only one way in, and most of the changes I've already covered via the Cryptic Castle Dark connective tissue. But instead of Black Doom just vaguely promising that Shadow's past is filled with nothing but contempt for the humans, I think you should try to hype him up a little more. He should be like,
Do you remember now how humans betrayed their own, killed the innocent among them because they could? You and I both know they deserve no salvation.
really make Black Doom lean into Gerald's misanthropy to show he's trying his best to relate to Shadow's worst impulses, despite knowing he's actually got pragmatic power grabbage on the mind instead. Perhaps if he got into Cryptic Castle via Glyphic Canyon, he'll tell him that their fleets are raised, and soon cities across the world will fall, really hammer home that Shadow's helping a ruthless alien invasion. For missions, Dark is fine, even if I'm questioning whether terrorist aliens made bombs that need to be directly detonated and defused by default. However, as fitting as Knuckles is for a dark terrorism-themed treasure hunt stage, he shouldn't be the person to turn around a Shadow so dark he's literally participating in a terrorist bombing. Oh, if only there was a character who is extremely close to Shadow, brings out the best in him, and is famous for similar treasure hunting levels to Knuckles. Oh, hi Rouge! Yes, I think Rouge should replace Knuckles here. I mean, it makes sense, right? Gun is currently in a desperate bid to save their capital. Of course they'd send one of their best operatives to deal with the issue. Naturally, I think Rouge will be surprised to see Shadow, and assumes he's not with the Black Arms despite everything. This is just there to cement her faith in him, however misplaced. The mission itself, meanwhile, is fine. Maybe the mini-bombs could be something like detonation signal creators or something instead, so it makes marginally more sense. But yeah, going around with a vacuum gun to contain them, that's all good. Dark ending quote is fine, honestly very Sonic Adventure 2 Shadow, you know, revenge focused. The hero mission, now that it's a case of Rouge talking him down, should be slightly less smug and hypocritical. Should say something like, "Don't worry Rouge, I will protect the innocence of the planet." This emphasis will be planted ironically by Black Doom, who specifically went off against Gun for targeting innocents. I mean, after all, that's what the civilians of Central City are, they're innocents caught in the crossfire. The connective tissue for this one is fairly minimal on the dark side, as it's fairly self-explanatory.
Congratulations, Shadow. You did a fucking terrorism on a city. Now, how about we do it to the planet via the Eclipse Cannon?
Shadow's then warped to the Ark, bish bash bosh, you're now on the Ark. The level. Hero into Airfleet, meanwhile, is a little more complicated. Thankfully, he's just helped a gun agent like Rouge, so the path into gun territory makes a little more sense. However, between levels, Rouge will partially confront Shadow, noting that the Black Arms seem to expect Shadow to help them, and that she's heard reports of him being seen fighting alongside the aliens. She makes it clear that she doesn't believe them, but understandably wants an explanation, which Shadow just won't give out of sheer shame and discomfort, instead rushing ahead to the nearby Airfleet. Next, the Doom. The semi-dark 4th level of Out the Edge is one of 2 flashback levels along with Lost Impact, and is placed perfectly given 4th levels in Shadow the Hedgehog don't yield an emerald, making for perfect ruminating time. I love this level in concept. Fitting to its name, it acts as good characterization for Black Doom. He likes to get in people's heads and is somehow capable of manipulating situations despite everyone knowing he's a ruthless alien warlord. The music's great too, but okay, I'm a Shadow 05 gameplay and mission defender for much of the game, but the Doom's complexity is just insufferable. There are certainly known routes you can take, and Lost Impact takes slightly more of the piss, but I can see why this level gets so much flack. Coming back as an adult who knows the ins and outs of Shadow 05 and knows how to cheese the hero score with a heal cannon is tolerable, but as a teen playing it for the first time it's nightmarish. Not helped by Doom's Eye and Maria both remarking on just how darn huge and complex the facility is, as if to rub it in. So, the ways in. Neutral from Cryptic Castle, as the connective tissue said, would be Shadow thinking about the information on the Ark incident found on Eggman's computer, wandering in a field thinking about the trauma that's coming back in pieces, only for Black Doom to be like,
"Hey Shadow, you seem troubled. Let me give you some answers. It'll make you hate humans more."
Meanwhile, Dark from Prison Island will have Shadow already coming out from liberating a bunch of Black Arms POWs and being accompanied by Doom's Eye, who essentially rewards him by
clarifying a few things about your past in a way that will make you hate humans more.
From there it'll be the same as the game. Shadow playing through his own memories and choosing to either attack the gun soldiers who hurt the researchers, selfishly ensure Maria and Gerald are safe while telling Gun and the researchers to kick rocks, or healing the researchers. Similarly, I think the missions are completely fine. Of course Maria would want Shadow to help everyone and doesn't want to leave them behind. Heck, she gave her own life to evacuate Shadow in the end. Neutral is also fitting of past Shadow. He's loving, but he focuses primarily on Gerald, his father figure, and Maria, his closest friend. Meanwhile, killing the gun soldiers is 100% catharsis, and a great way for Black Doom to get into Shadow's head. The ending quotes can stay unaltered too, they all do their job damn well. It's a shame about the level itself, eh? In addition, I think Heavy Dog being unavoidable no matter the route makes a sad amount of sense. No matter how heroic Shadow was upon the Ark, Maria was shot and he came to hate Gun. Connective tissue time. Dark into the Ark is simple. Black Doom is in his head now and says,
"Now you know how abominable those humans are. They seized the Ark for themselves. Let us reclaim it and repay the terror they inflicted upon you tenfold."
Obviously referring to the Eclipse Cannon. Neutral into Earthly has a Shadow reminded of no matter how he tried, Maria was killed, and Black Doom asks if he wants to pass up his next opportunity for revenge. Shadow ruefully admits that no, he doesn't, and follows the President escape ship into Earthfleet. Finally, Hero into Iron Jungle has Black Doom ask what he thinks about his heroism being all for nothing, and Shadow admits he doesn't know what to make of it, and that he's going to seek out the Professor's legacy, Dr. Eggman. Black Doom gets pissy about this, but Shadow ultimately ignores him. The neutral-most 4th level, Sky Troops, is honestly one of my favourites, and why wouldn't it be? The swelling, epic soundtrack that combines reverb guitar with soaring violins, mixed with the epic aerial battle between Black Doom and a heroic by comparison Eggman, is just cool. It's cool, you hear me? It's fucking cool, and I don't care who knows it. Anyway, this level is honestly near perfect to me, so there's minimal tweaks beyond clarifying how you get there and the connective tissue from the resultant missions. So, from Cryptic Castle Hero, which is now a pro-Eggman mission if you'll remember, you'll be coming in on Eggman's request. No standing by Black Doom saying, "I bet they never expected this baby could fly." Nah, Eggman has dropped you in there as a saboteur. Neutral from Prison Island, meanwhile, would have Shadow coming in from a gun computer's alert system showing the fleet's motion. And heck, this start can have Doom's Eye approach Shadow, all proud of his 2,000-year plan that still has a million points of failure. Dark from Circus Park is once again a case of helping Eggman and being dropped off as a saboteur. Easy peasy. For the missions, they're perfectly fine, but I would add conditional dialogue depending on if Shadow got there from Cryptic Castle Hero after Glyphic Canyon Dark. Specifically, if you're working for Eggman's hero mission, you should note how quickly Shadow knew the jewels were the power source of the ships. Meanwhile, Doom's Eye will be smugly thanking Shadow for all his hard work on these ruins. Neutral will be a complicated one in terms of Shadow's motives, given 2 of the paths in are from Eggman allied missions. I think it could be as simple as wanting Eggman and the Black Arms to both suffer losses to his own end, so that he can investigate Eggman's knowledge on the Ark by hitching a ride on his ship as it retreats. Given these changes, I think the neutral ending remark should be changed to something along the lines of, "The Doctor's retreating to his jungle base. Let's see what he's hiding." The final part is the connective tissue, and once again there's not that much to change. Dark into Earthfleet has a very pleased Black Doom watching Eggman's fleet going down with Shadow, congratulating him and saying that next, Shadow should take on the other humans' aerial forces. The leader is on board. Then he takes him to Earthfleet. Neutral into Iron Jungle is Shadow, having refused to help Eggman, but also not crushing the flagship so he can hitch a ride. The tide of battle drifts into the Black Arm's favour, and Shadow sneaks aboard the retreating flagship to reach Iron Jungle, ready to find out more about Eggman's plans. Hero into Space Gadget has Eggman, extremely pleased with the situation, saying that the world doesn't need to worry about those aliens anymore, and asks if he wants to come with him to the Ark to fully ensure neither the Black Arms or Gun can threaten him. When Shadow asks what he means, he says the Eclipse Cannon, but in his own gaslighty way says, "Of course you wouldn't know about that." This will tie into my changes to Space Gadget that are coming up. Mad Matrix. The semi-heroic 4th stage is pretty good. As I mentioned with Digital Circuit, I love Shadow of Ice computer levels, but Mad Matrix does have a few things going against it. For one, the panel puzzles, save a few places in the Green Tower where you have to shoot them in time or perish, aren't challenging at all, just tedious pace breakers. And of course, Black Doom's circuit bombing mission, while thematically appropriate, is just nightmarish. Thankfully the A rank requirements are super generous, but when the devs clearly know you only want to do the mission once, it's kind of an indictment. But the neutral and hero missions are both very fun, even if SBO keeps giving me dark points like a moron. Please stop that, SBO. Possible entrances are from helping Charmy in Prison Island or being neutral in Circus Park, and the connective tissue from both cover the entrances nicely. Charmy is happy with the secret discs, drops some obvious hints that the Chaotix are researching the Ark incident, and he brings Shadow to Eggman's circus base to help with data extraction. Meanwhile, neutral from Circus Park just has Shadow loot the tornado and move on to the computer room to research Eggman's knowledge of the Ark. Both lead to the goofy scene where Shadow opens a computer portal via Karate Chop, and into the missions we go. I think all three missions are fine in terms of the reps and what they want, but SBO, please stop killing Eggman's robots if you're so intent on scolding me for doing it. At any rate, the only thing I'd really change other than finding a way to make the Dark Mission bomb run slightly less tedious would be the remarks for the neutral mission. Shadow shouldn't be going into Mad Matrix without a plan, calling it a waste of time. That's the last thing any gamer wants to hear about a mission they've just completed. No, instead he should find a big interface at the red terminal and say something like, "So the Doctor is interested in the Ark. Looks like he's headed there right now." This is to leave a hint for what's gonna happen in my changes to Space Gadget. Finally, let's move on to connective tissue. Dark into Iron Jungle should have Doom's Eye, much like Digital Circuit, be like,
Shadow, this space will be destroyed soon. We must find a terminal from which to exit.
At which point they exit at an Eggman network terminal in Iron Jungle, but won't be able to stick around due to Eggman and Gun's presence. Neutral into Space Gadget will have Shadow uncover Eggman's plans to take over the Ark and deal with the Gun and the Black Arm simultaneously, so he heads to the Ark to check out the Eclipse cannon. Hero into Lost Impact meanwhile will have Shadow's data extraction lead to a video message left behind by Maria being uncovered. Let's say it's about the artificial chaos, which triggers a memory that will lead to Lost Impact. Also, Eggbreaker should occur at the end of all missions, just like before. One of the levels of all time, Death Ruins for whatever reason never left much of an impact on me and definitely doesn't feel like a full hero kinda level despite only being accessible from the hero mission of the most heroic stage 3 and the Black Arms are kinda on the ropes. I will say that I love Black Doom's copy attitude this level, being like,
Our surface operations are totally complete. Yes, we meant to get our asses handed to us by those wretched humans. We swear.
Rouge as a hero rep also makes sense as the level is ostensibly about Gun's triumph over the Black Arms on the surface, as indicated by the intro cutscene where the commander is happy with the fact the Black Arms are driven into the jungle, but still convinced Shadow is a sleeper agent or collaborator. There's only one way in, as mentioned, and in the Circus Park connective tissue, I'd mentioned Tails convincing Shadow to check out the cornering of the Black Arms by telling him that Rouge is there. Thus, she should be the first person he meets after the commander cutscene, overjoyed to see Shadow and saying that it looks like the Black Arms are being repelled. Then the level starts proper. The missions are fine, no tweaks are necessary, you're helping Rouge finish off the Black Arms on Earth, or you're sparing the Black Arms to weaken Gun. It should be pointed out that if you've reached this level, the darkest ending you'll get is Neutral Dark, so I think it should be made clear that Shadow would only help Black Doom so that Gun still beats the Black Arms, but wastes more resources than necessary to do so. As such, the ending quote should be more like, Gun doesn't need my help. I have Chaos Emeralds to find. However, I do think Black Doom should only summon Black Bull if you help Rouge, implying that if he's convinced Shadow is on his side, he won't bother wasting resources to fuck with him unnecessarily. Never understood that in the original. The connective tissue is going to be fun for this one. So, as I acknowledged, at this point the darkest ending you'll reach is Neutral Dark. So the Dark mission will have Black Doom ask Shadow,
Hey dude, why haven't you helped us? Gerald Pinky promised. You want proof? I'll take you to the Ark.
But when they walk there, Eggman's troops fire on sight and Black Doom has to flee, clearly not expecting Eggman to have a presence on the Ark. This leads into Space Gadget. Hero into Lost Impact, meanwhile, is a little different to the original game. Alas, we won't be doing, this is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me. No, Rouge will offer a gun transport to the Ark as it seems the Black Arms are fleeing towards Space Colony Ark and the Black Comet. Shadow joins Rouge and looking at the Ark and the artificial chaos rampaging beyond the ship gets Shadow nostalgic, leading to Lost Impact. On to the Ark, the darkest possible stage 5, and holy shit guys, this level is really fucking cool. but not much else. The music is funky as hell, the stakes are on point, Shadow is at his moral nadir, the semi-dark hero ending is the most heroic option remaining, and he's about to hand the Eclipse Cannon over to a bunch of misanthropic aliens. However, the level itself is just a rail shooter with the Black Vault. Like, it's fine, not offensive or anything, but it could have been so much more, especially with that final Rush remix. Oh well, time to cover the possible entrances. They're both the result of Black Doom fully getting into Shadow's head, as mentioned in Central City and the Doom's connective tissues. It's fairly simple. Dark from Central City has Shadow do something he can never take back. He is down on the ground, actively ensuring civilians and their homes will be destroyed. He's confirmed once and for all that he's down with Doom, so Black Doom asks Shadow to seize control of the Eclipse Cannon. Dark from the Doom would have a Black Doom be a little gentler with his approach, focusing on Shadow's vengeful feelings. At this point,
Something misanthropy. They killed Maria.
will easily do the trick given the headspace Shadow's in. Moving on to the missions. The Dark mission is fine, and Black Doom establishing that taking down the Ark's defences will leave it free for the Black Arms to take is a great call. Simple and to the point. However, the impetus for the neutral mission is kinda lacking. I hope to change that. Now, Shadow's mission is to reach the control room while leaving the defense units intact, specifically because he wants himself to have control of the Eclipse Cannon, not the Black Arms, so the defense units stay to waste Black Arms resources. Effectively, he has regressed to Sonic Adventure 2 Shadow and is perfectly willing to play others off each other, even Black Doom. Of course, both missions still result in fighting the Blue Falcon, as Gun is in the way of his path to the control room. Connective tissue is really simple for Dark into Gun Fortress, but I want to make something clear. The President making it out of the Independence Day laser scene and the Air Fleet assassination, the two scenarios that lead to Gun Fortress, that's bullshit. No, the President should not make it, and the Commander should be pissed. However, the rest can be unaltered. Black Doom has control of the Eclipse Cannon, brags to the world that he's won, and tries it out on the Sanic World White House. Neutral into Black Comet, meanwhile, is a little more fun now. Instead of Black Doom ignoring Shadow's shirking and telling him to clean up
Rats in the base.
Doom's AI will convey absolute fury at Shadow, asking why he would do so much only to ignore his duties now. Shadow will smugly tell Doom that the Eclipse Cannon is Gerald's legacy. My legacy, not yours. Doom will laugh this off, slightly impressed, and tell Shadow that he is his legacy in a way, before freaking out and realising Gun and Eggman alike have found out the Black Comet is where they're from. Angrier than ever, he tells Shadow,
If you hope to regain your honor, you ought to destroy every last machine they send to our home.
and Shadow, while compliant, quips back, you forgot to say please. Next is Earthfleet, the semi-dark stage 5 where you can fucking assassinate the President. As a teenager I was always disappointed that decision didn't stick, and as an adult I'm even more disappointed. Oh well, as a level it's completely fine, and a more endurance-based variant of Lethal Highway in terms of the mission involving shooting down an armoured craft. Just with a couple Westopolis fundamentals, alien killing and rush to the goal missions thrown in too. Aside from the whole killing the President thing, this level isn't too memorable, though Tails' line about fearing the coming sunset goes hard. So, entrances. Hero from Central City has Rouge take him to Earthfleet and confront Shadow about being seen in league with the Black Arms, only for him to run off in implied shame. From there he'll notice the President escaping, and Black Doom will appear like,
Bro, what happened in Central City? Real bruh moment from you. Still, we can crush human morale by killing their leader. And won't you know, he's on that escape craft. You know what to do.
Neutral from the Doom, meanwhile, has no Rouge confrontation. Shadow will wake up from Black Doom's illusions near Airfleet, reflecting on what Gun did to him. Black Doom will tell him,
The humans took someone dear to you. How about you take someone dear to them?
gesturing to the President's escape pod and raising his non-existent eyebrows. Dark from Sky Troops, as mentioned in the connective tissue, will have Black Doom say that
The foolish scientist
is no longer a threat, and they should go after Gun's air forces next, noting that the President is on board. The missions? Honestly, while I considered switching Tails out for Rouge as the rep, I actually like the idea of Shadow fleeing his confrontation with one of the few people who could turn him away from darkness. Plus, I'd just be turning this rewrite into a Rouge simping R. Not that I'm not a Rouge simp, but that's besides the point. At any rate, the missions are fine. The only real tweaks will be why Tails is even at Earthfleet. Supposedly, Gun has confiscated some top secret Eggman tech, and Tails wants to help Gun out, then analyse it to see if he can turn it against Eggman. I also think a couple of the ending quotes could do with some tweaks, specifically Neutral and Hero. Neutral should have a focus on the Chaos Emerald, seeing as he's ignoring some serious stakes just to rush for one. So something like, 2 emeralds remain. I wonder where they are. Meanwhile, the hero quote should be, alright Tails, let's see what this confiscated weapon looks like. Connective tissue is where I really want to make some changes, because how in the fuck does helping Tails stop an assassination make Shadow think he's a robot? With that in mind, Hero into Lava Shelter first. The confiscated Eggman tech on Gun's Airfleet? It's a Shadow android capsule. This utterly breaks Shadow, brings him back to his time in Sonic Heroes, and when Tails asks Shadow if he's alright, he says, I have some questions for the doctor, leading him off to Lava Shelter. Neutral into Black Comet, meanwhile, won't be a case of Black Doom telling Shadow,
We have rats loose in the base.
and Shadow being like, yes honey. Instead, he'll have 5 emeralds and briefly gets in touch with his Black Arms nature, feeling that the last 2 emeralds are on that comet, taken there by the Black Arms. Finally, Dark into Gun Fortress is very simple. Simply put, the assassination works this time, and Black Doom is incredibly proud of Shadow, telling him that
The humans now know how you felt 50 years ago.
and it is now time to
Finish the job.
leading to Gun Fortress. Iron Jungle. You know, if not for the Shadow Android's debut and Omega showing up with his John St. John voice like, Are you the original? This would be a fairly forgettable level to me, which is strange because the hero mission is very fun. Maybe it's just all the grey and the music being about as generic Shadow of 5 as they come. Still, this is a level with Shadow Androids, which has got to count for something. A neat thing about the Shadow Androids is their standard attacks, lock-on missiles. Eggman really just looked at Shadow's Chaos Spear and said, make it explosive. At any rate, as the most neutral 5th stage, it's got a diverse set of outcomes despite being a fairly standard Eggman vs Gun conflict. First, the ways in. Hero from the Doom will be motivated by Shadow reflecting on Maria and Gerald's legacy, naturally making him think about the other branch of his family, that is, Dr. Eggman. He decides to check in on the Doctor, only to see all the fucking Shadow Androids, sparking a big ol' existential crisis. Before you all say, bro, why doesn't Shadow just cut his wrist or something? Omega has already implied that the Shadow Androids were the result of some sort of biological cloning, and given how Shadow was produced, he could well have a fucky organic metal hybrid body himself. Let's let Shadow 05 have its existential crisis story. If you found a bunch of robots who looked just like you, you'd probably not be thinking rationally. Shout out to Donald from Invincible for taking it like a champ comparatively. Neutral from Sky Troops would be much the same, though less nostalgic about the Robotniks and more pragmatically getting onto Eggman's flagship as it retreats, hoping to use the dire situation as leverage, only for that to go out the window the moment he sees the androids, and at that point Shadow just wants answers. Dark from Mad Matrix will have Doom's Eye help Shadow leave the destroyed Mad Matrix via a terminal in Iron Jungle, only for the area to be infested with Shadow androids who straight up attack Doom's Eye, and then he'll be like,
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
I joke, but claiming he's needed on the Black Comet or in orbit in general isn't that far-fetched given the potential outcomes of Black Comet and Cosmic Fall. So, with the tone centering on the Shadow androids, let's get to the missions. Neutral on this feels like the canon outcome of Iron Jungle, to be honest, and can pretty much stay unchanged. Shadow's just seen a bunch of androids that look like him and he wants answers from the Doctor ASAP. Hero mission for Omega is fine, but seeing as helping him leads Shadow to conclude he is the real Shadow in Cosmic Fall, I should expect Omega to be more explicitly encouraging of Shadow's originality. Dark mission being a gun-crushing mission is fine too, however the connective tissue to make everything work with Black Comet will need tweaking. An Eggbreaker shouldn't happen for the Dark mission. After all, Eggman should be happy with Shadow. Finally, connective tissue. Neutral into Lava Shelter can basically be unchanged, except Shadow will face Eggbreaker without Omega. This is so Eggman can more plausibly get to gaslighting Shadow, and it also means that when Shadow concludes that he's a robot, Omega isn't around to be like, hold on, but aren't you the original? Hero into Cosmic Fall will have Eggbreaker with Omega, who after the fight will assure Shadow that no, he isn't a Shadow android, his signatures just don't match. From there, Shadow will conclude that his place is on the Ark, and Omega, while disappointed he won't be able to trounce Eggman with him, lets him do his thing. Shadow will part on good terms with Omega, but there'll be an ominous tone about the whole deal, like Shadow knows that he may not see Omega again. Meanwhile, Dark into Black Comet will have a triumphant Eggman grateful for his help. saying that now that Gunn is off his back, he can mobilise his forces to the Black Comet and finish off these invaders once and for all. Shadow initially seems hesitant to join the Doctor until he mentions that there's 2 Chaos Emeralds in the Black Arm's possession, at which point he's like, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." Moving on to the semi-hero 5th stage, Space Gadget, and this one's going to get a lot of changes. Why? Well, it's pretty bloody obvious, right? The neutral and hero missions are literally the same thing, only you have to run out of time on the hero mission to do the neutral mission. Furthermore, when you fail the hero mission, Sonic claims to have snagged the Aqua Chaos Emerald and is all like, "Score 1 emerald for the good guys. Sorry there, Shadow old buddy." Only for you to get the emerald anyway with neutral. Was there an off-screen mugging or something? Anyway, I'm looking for big tweaks to the missions here, and it's a shame because the music and level itself, with the huge dark alternate path and the gravity switch-ups, all that shit's great. To cover how the missions will change, I need to first establish how the potential entrances to Space Gadget have changed. Hero from Sky Troops will have a triumphant Eggman saying that, with the Black Arms in shambles and Gun doing their part in harassing them, that the Ark is free for him to take, at which point neither faction will fuck with him. He then offers for Shadow to come along, and Offer Shadow accepts, though naturally he isn't fully loyal to Eggman. Neutral from Mad Matrix will have Shadow, having accessed some of Eggman's plans, heading to the Ark to sort matters out. Dark from Death Ruins will have Shadow, courtesy of Doom's Eye, warp to the Ark, only for Doom's Eye to freak out and leave once Gun and Eggman's mechs open fire on him. If accessed from Sky Troops, his discussion with Eggman will be cut short by Sonic coming in, destroying a bunch of Eggman robots, and calling Shadow out for hanging out with a lame-o like Eggman. After Eggman retreats, Shadow will point out that Eggman's fighting the Black Arms, and Sonic will be like, "Sure, but he's after the Eclipse Cannon and a nearby emerald." Shadow will hear this, knowing Sonic probably wants it for himself, and gets running. From here, the missions are going to be super switched up. For one, given the position the Black Arms are in no matter the entrance, the momentum should clearly be in Eggman and Gun's favour, meaning the Dark faction this time is the Eggman Empire, and the Hero faction will be Gun. This also ties into the hero-neutral mission fumble. The original hero mission is now the neutral mission, as telling Sonic, "Fuck you, you're a blue bitch," and taking the emerald from under him is a very neutral Shadow thing to do. Instead, the hero mission will be destroying 5 super armoured Egg Hammer enemies from Sonic Heroes, and fuck it, let's say that they can only be harmed by explosives so the rocket launchers have some utility beyond guns without auto aim. The Dark mission meanwhile can stay intact, the only difference being it's Eggman who wants the Arc defense units removed, so he can control the Eclipse Cannon. In addition, as part of foreshadowing the potential outcomes, Shadow androids will be deployed by the Eggman Empire on this level. As a little aside, ending remarks are fine aside from Dark, which can be switched up to, "If the Arc's out of Gun's hands, I don't care who has the Eclipse Cannon." Really play up the neutrality and anti-Gun sentiment. With all the mission changes, the connective tissue can feel much more natural. Gone are the days of, "I just helped Black Doom access the Ark, guess I'm a robot now." Dark into Lava Shelter transitions through Eggman, briefly excited to piss on the moon once more, only for his capsule's screen to flag up that Gun has done a sneak attack on his base. Shadow is initially like, "Not my problem," until Eggman, opportunistically, asks him what he thinks about those Shadow androids. When Shadow says that they're just copies, Eggman replies, "Have you wondered why you have no memories? Have you considered there is no past for you to remember?" From there, he promises to give Shadow all the answers he wants, provided he helps out in Lava Shelter. Neutral into Cosmic Fall is simple. He selfishly steals the emerald from under Sonic's nose and concludes that the remaining emeralds are close by, using emerald resonance or some shit like that. If he accesses Space Gadget via Mad Matrix, he'll also know that his answers and purpose lie on the Ark. Hero into Final Horn has Sonic, very happy with Shadow, remark that taking down Eggman robots never gets old. And he admits that he'd have had trouble without Shadow's help and says, "Hey, if you're collecting the emeralds, feel free to take that one. But Tails has told me that those aliens have taken the last 2 to the Black Comet." This leads to the scene where Shadow looks at the Black Comet, feels the Black Arms crawling all over it, and says that it's time to finish them for good. Sonic excitedly agrees and they take Tails' spaceship up to it.
The most heroic 5th stage in Out of the Edge, Lost Impact, oh well, it's infamous for a reason. It has the same issues as the Doom, along with the tedious vertical paths that mean that even if you know the routes inside and out, you're still spending an awfully long time waiting for lifts while completing the hero mission. And God help you if you miss an artificial chaos floating about at the top of a vertical path or off in the shadows. Even though I've played through Shadow 5 countless times, got all the A ranks, beat an expert, even now I've managed to fuck up and spend 12 minutes on the hero mission. At least neutral is relatively easy once you have the heal cannon. Just heal all the gun guys and chaos control until you hear the gold ring shimmer. Also, because it won't fit anywhere else, great level name, seriously, I can't think of a better alternative given the level's theme. Shadow is recovering the positive impact Maria's concern for life had on him. Anyway, let's go through the paths into Lost Impact as they'll actually affect the connective tissue. Hero from Mad Matrix will have Shadow exiting the Eggman terminal with SBO after having seen a message from Maria about the artificial chaos incident, and then he gets lost in the memories of the time they rampaged, along with how he helped Maria. Meanwhile, from Death Ruins, Rouge will have helped him take a gun transport to the Ark, and seeing the artificial chaos floating around out there will get him similarly reminiscent. As I mentioned before, no baby candy theft. Shadow is no longer concerned about baby dental health, alas. The missions are honestly fine, even if the level itself is pure hell. Containing the artificial chaos for Maria makes sense for Hero, and being selfishly concerned with Gerald and Maria alone is fine for neutral. Nope, that was easy. Let's move on to the connective tissue. Hero into Final Hunt will have Shadow stop reminiscing with either SBO or Rouge, only for them to come across Sonic, who is holding the Aqua Chaos Emerald with a smug grin. He asks Shadow if he's collecting the emeralds, and teasingly says that he's welcome to it, provided he joins him in taking the fight to the Black Arms. Shadow, resolving to protect the world Maria loved, agrees to Sonic's terms. If in from Mad Matrix, SBO will mention he has errands to run at the Ark's computer room, and if it's in from Death Ruins, Rouge will assure Shadow that Gun will leave the Ark in good hands. Meanwhile, neutral into Cosmic Fall will instead have Shadow stop reminiscing to find SBO or Rouge asking why he's spacing out, waving the Aqua Chaos Emerald in his face. SBO will hand the emerald over, telling him it's preemptive payment. He wants Shadow to help Vector find the computer room! Rouge, meanwhile, will hand the emerald over simply as a thanks for all his hard work, and says she's off to help Gun protect the Ark, but to be careful around here, as she hears the commander has personally shown up for this mission and has a major grudge against Shadow. Here we are at the first final stage, and we're starting, as always, with the darkest, Gun Fortress. This is a favourite of mine. The music and atmosphere is fittingly bleak as a contrast to the usual bombastic synth guitar combos associated with Gun. Also, I love how the Black Arms show up for the first third of the level before straight up disappearing, justifying why Black Doom needs Shadow to break through and destroy the mother computers. As it turns out, the Gun forces are actually holding out. It's a strange, tiny piece of hope that you, as the newly inaugurated champion of the Black Arms, are destined to snuff out. The ways in are twofold, dark from the Ark or dark from Earthfleet, and as I mentioned in the connective tissue, no successful evacuations this time. The President will die from either the Eclipse Cannon test run, having refused to evacuate from Central City, or he'll die from literally getting assassinated in Earthfleet. No, I will not get over how buckwild that mission is. Anyway, point is, I think going in, the Gun Commander should be devastated from the civilian deaths, from the President's death, and he should be pissed. However, the infiltration of Gun Fortress from Shadow's perspective doesn't need changing at all. In fact, Shadow remembering the Professor is crucial for how I'm going to alter the endings. The missions are fine. For the hero mission, Rouge still believes in Shadow despite everything her co-workers must be saying, trusts that Shadow's going to defend the Emerald from the Black Arms, when in actuality Shadow just wants to have leverage for his eventual mutiny. Meanwhile, the Dark mission being to destroy the final Mother Computer's gun has, yep, it's a fitting conclusion to the Tech-reliant gun. No notes, Gun Fortress is just fucking solid. However, the hero ending quote is a little disingenuous given everything that's preceded it. Instead, I think he should say, "The emeralds belong to me, not Black Doom." Now, for the final levels, I'm going to switch up the connective tissue and instead talk about tweaking the endings. And the theme I want to have between both is simple. Just like Eggman in Sonic Adventure 2, Black Doom is going to get more than he can handle with Shadow. Dark Boss being Sonic and Diabolon is fine, but I think this version of the commander should have a plain and obvious present motivation along with the past ones.
This is for my family, for Maria, for the people of Central City.
He should be truly pissed off, and when he falls, it'll make the "No, I have failed" all the more powerful. For the ending, I've always been a little annoyed that Doomseye isn't around to witness the Diablon defeating endings, so that's gonna change. The lead up can stay, the commander presumably dead from Diablon's explosions and a near-death Sonic asking Shadow what he's gonna do with the emeralds, instead of saying he was created to
bring order and justice to the humans. However, he'll instead say, I was made by Professor Gerald to avenge all that he lost.
Before following up with the iconic,
with the power of these emeralds, I'm going to destroy this damn planet.
At this point, Doomseye will cut in and be like,
Shadow, no. Shadow, the Black Arms need this planet. We need the humans. Shadow, this isn't the plan.
Before Shadow turns on Doomseye too, saying,
nobody can stop me now, not even you.
Before having his evil chuckle sesh. Yep, in this version, Shadow is a successful version of his pre-character development Sonic Adventure 2 self. The hero outcome, really more neutral given the situation, will have Black Doom angrily confronting Shadow, all like,
you disobeyed my orders.
But this time, Rouge will be in the cutscene, asking why the Black Arms leader seems to think he can give Shadow orders. Shadow will be uncomfortable because of, well, the bloody obvious, and tells Rouge that things will work out. Black Doom will scoff and say,
don't tell me you're growing sentimental. Here, now, after everything you've done to the humans, your only choice is to serve obediently. Mutineers do not live long in the Black Arms.
From there the battle will begin, and while Rouge will be a buddy, she should be written as very obviously worried about what Black Doom's implied about Shadow's actions. When Shadow defeats Black Doom, he'll say the usual,
Shadow, this isn't over yet. The Black Arms will rise again.
Only for Shadow to retort,
the Black Arms aren't going to fall, only you. With the power of these emeralds, I shall command the Black Arms and conquer the universe.
Rouge, horrified, will finally confront Shadow properly, saying she didn't want to believe that he'd turned even when the commander claimed he had, but now she refuses to let him continue this path. Shadow will coldly warn her not to get in his way. If she does, she'll be spared. Instead of ending with a laugh, it'll end with Shadow watching his closest friend fly away with defeated disgust. On to the semi-dark final stage, and just like Gun Fortress, this one's a banger. The fact there's two Black Comet themed finales, one where you're there to fuck Black Doom up and the other where you may be on the alien side, is an interesting facet of Out the Edge. At any rate, good music, excellent alien vibes, and the emphasis on the alien saucer, one of the best vehicles in the game, really makes for a fan-dabby-dozy kind of level. Now, thanks to the altered entrances that emphasise Shadow's near neutrality in my rewrite, the actual circumstances of the level are tweaked and then some. So let's cover those entrances first. Neutral from the Ark is effectively on the heels of Shadow, despite his many probable war crimes he committed in order to get to the Ark, still telling Black Doom to kick rocks, saying that the Eclipse Cannon belongs to him, not the Black Arms. As such, he has no reason to open a path so easily. Even when he decides to head into the Black Comet on Doom's orders, he's doing it with a snarky attitude. Neutral from Earthfleet, meanwhile, is no longer a case of Black Doom ordering Shadow to exterminate the humans and Shadow being a little bitch, but instead Shadow sensing that the remaining two emeralds are in the Black Arm's possession, and heading to the Black Comet to retrieve them. Finally, Dark Ramayan Jungle is Eggman, happy with Shadow's work, taking him up to the Black Comet to take their emeralds and fuck them up. In all three scenarios, I want a funny thing to happen. Eggman's robots and Gun's mechs should be in an alliance of convenience. That's right, I want to justify why in a semi-dark position, where the Black Arms should have the advantage, their base is getting invaded. The answer is, their enemies have set their differences aside to save the world. As you can imagine, this means that the mission's context are switched up a little. Instead of Knuckles just being there and later randomly cheering you on against Eggman, now Eggman is the hero option, with Black Doom remaining as the dark option. And despite Eggman being a big change to the hero mission rep, the mission itself will remain the same. Clear a path to the core, at which point he'll set up the Egg Dealer to destroy the Black Comet from within. The dark mission meanwhile will have Black Doom annoyed and a little flattered at the two-faction effort, but ultimately demand Shadow destroy several high-ranking mechs. A few Gun Bigfoot, a few Egg Hammers, a few Shadow Androids. Heck, let's add some new Black Doom lines about the Shadow Androids like
paltry imitations of a true warrior.
Really shake things up before the end. Naturally, the hero ending quote should also change, now with Shadow saying something like, "Alright Doctor, you finish the Black Comet, while I finish this long journey." Now, connective tissue into the final bosses is where things get fun. This time, I think for the Dark Mission and final boss, a Sonicless Diablon would be fun, especially given there's several paths to the semi-dark ending where the most you'll have seen of Sonic is Westopolis, and Shadow is considerably less dark simply by not handing the arc to Black Doom. Pure Dark Shadow would cap Sonic without a second thought, but this more neutral, semi-dark Shadow may only have a grudge with Gun and humanity. As such, a Sonicless variant of Diablon, crippling Gun's side of the mech threat. This of course means that when the end comes, the Commando will be the one asking why he's siding with the Black Arms, and instead of responding like a Black Doom simp, Shadow will respond like a vengeful asshole.
I could ask you why you're siding with the people who killed everyone aboard the Ark. I don't care if Black Doom's on my side. With the power of these emeralds, the world will answer to me.
In addition, Doom's Eye will be at Shadow's side, but unlike the pure Dark ending, won't freak out about this insubordination. Instead, he chuckles to himself, saying,
"Very good, Shadow,"
with the implication he intends to control Shadow last story style when the time is right. The hero boss and ending, meanwhile, will have Shadow and Eggman merrily on their way to the Black Comet's core, and Shadow will notice the 7th Chaos Emerald nearby, right after obtaining the 6th. Eggman will have the Egg Dealer seize it and say,
Didn't you see the Shadow androids on the way here? You're built to serve me, Shadow. So why don't you hand those 6 emeralds over? I'll have a lot of rebuilding to do once the Black Arms are dealt with, so I need every advantage I can get."
Shadow, almost impressed by the sheer gall of Eggman, tells him straight up,
"I'm no android. I owe you nothing. And if you don't hand over that emerald, I'll crush you in the machine you're operating."
Eggman scoffs, prepares the Egg Dealer for battle, and well, loses. Instead of a simple, "I and only I know what's right" spiel, this Shadow, just barely darker than neutral, declares the following:
"With the power of these emeralds, I will destroy the Black Arms, destroy Gun, destroy everyone who thinks they can control me, starting with you."
Then Eggman gets his signature fatal karate chop. Next up, the neutral final stage, Lava Shelter, and wait, I'm just realising all of Shadow the Hedgehog's final stages are fantastic. I especially love this level's security system gimmick. Basically, if you activate Eggman's security systems, or let Shadow Android rockets activate them in their stead, then the simpler, quicker route will be sealed off and you'll have to take a higher route to avoid the lava. As such, it's one of the few levels to make the get to the end mission somewhat compelling, as the actual mission, if you want to get an A, is kill the elite enemies around the security systems before they activate them. It's a shame that the endings are more or less the same despite the awesomeness preceding them. Anyway, this is a level where entrance is predicated on Shadow believing he's an android, so let's go over the entrances first. So, Hero from Earthfleet will be the result of Tails checking what secret Eggman tech Gun confiscated, only to find out it's a Shadow android. Something in Shadow's mind snaps, time for Eggman to go straight to hell. Neutral from Iron Jungle is the result of Shadow facing the Iron Jungle Eggbreaker post-witnessing Shadow androids, but without Omega there to assure him, so Eggman's gaslighting lands. Dark from Space Gadget is also the result of Eggman's gaslighting landing after he witnesses Shadow androids, with the additional stake that Eggman now has control of the Eclipse Cannon. The Eggman Empire is looking like a decent prize once the Lava Shelter's freed of Gun's assault. Missions can stay the same, they're both fine, though I think Omega should be a little confused that Shadow keeps talking like Eggman created him, but ultimately doesn't question it too much. After all, Shadow's helping him with his pet project, murdering Eggman. Helping Eggman seal himself off so there's a guaranteed 1-to-1 also makes sense, but it means Omega shouldn't be the final boss buddy for the Dark Boss. It just doesn't make sense, he's helping Eggman. But speaking of the final bosses, Hero is fine. You're going in with Omega, convinced you're a fellow Eggman robot on a mission to wreck his creator. The Egg Dealer also works as a final boss here. After all, it's the embodiment of Eggman's hubris. He's literally leaving the battle to chance. However, the hero ending, being so Omega aligned, shouldn't lead to a hostile takeover of the Eggman Empire. Instead, he'll vow that, with the power of these emeralds, I shall destroy every Eggman robot until there is only me and Omega. Sorry, Doctor. The world doesn't need you or your army. At which point, yep, deadly karate chop. Yeah, I never understood how in the original the heroic option is the one where Shadow pulls a Neo-Metal Sonic. Like, no, that's outright villainous, what are you talking about? The dark ending, meanwhile, should feel, remotely different to the hero one. As such, let's switch things up. Shadow doesn't reach Eggman with Omega, and furthermore the lava flooding in the shelter means that Eggman is now using a different, lava-based mech of some sort. Maybe there's vibes of the Lava Reef boss from Sonic and Knuckles, wouldn't that be fun? Anyway, after defeating this different Eggman mech, Shadow will have the actions of the original hero ending. That is, he'll opt to take over the Eggman Empire and rule it himself, Neo Metal Sonic style. After all, the most efficient way to do the Dark mission is to preserve the Eggman robots and operate Eggman's tools. Therefore, it's kind of prepping you to become a ruler of Eggman's empire. I just think it makes more sense this way. From there, he'll cap off his motive rant with a good ol'
"With the power of these emeralds, I will transform the Eggman Empire into an unstoppable force. And you are redundant to that vision, Doctor. Goodbye."
And then, once again, deadly karate chop. Oh, I didn't catch you there. I was just checking the script and it turns out Cosmic Fall is amazing too. The semi-hero final level is a fabulous externalization of Shadow's mental state. At this point in the story, he roughly wants to do the right thing, but the people he's talked to aren't exactly showing him a display of faith. And the confrontation with the gun commander at the start of the level, where he's essentially told he's the reason that everyone he cared about was silenced aboard the Ark, means that, yeah, the Ark's fall is indicative of the exile and self-destruction to expect of the endings, and frankly I don't want to change that at all. Though given Eggman's sudden appearance, I will mess with the mission reps a little. This level is fire though, even if there's plenty of sections that involve a lot of waiting. Oh well, nothing's perfect, let's go over the points of entry. First hero from Iron Jungle. With Omega's help, Shadow has pushed away his doubts that he's a Shadow android, telling Eggman where to shove it with the Egg Breaker. Neutral from Space Gadget has him beat Sonic to the Emerald and he's generally isolated, but he also knows that the remaining emeralds and his purpose lie aboard the Ark. A neutral from Lost Impact has Espio or Rouge, depending on how you got into Lost Impact, offering an emerald, either for services rendered ahead of time, or simply because Rouge cares about Shadow. At any rate, Shadow will wander the Ark and find the Commander, who will tell him the same story as in canon, that thanks to Gerald making his Faustian deal with Black Doom, the Ark was shut down, and he blames Shadow for Maria and everybody aboard the Ark's deaths. Shadow, obviously affected by this, will say that if that's true, he'll accept his punishment and stay with the Ark. This is then put to the test when it's clear the Ark is falling from a Black Arms attack, and the Commander and Shadow alike realise they can't afford to waste any time. Heck, maybe Shadow will save the Commander to truly highlight his character development, before moving on to the level proper. Now, while I mentioned a Black Arms attack would start the Ark's fall, you may have noticed a lot of Eggman focus. That's because I want Eggman to be the dark rep of this level. That's right baby, now every final stage where you can help Eggman leads to an Eggman final boss, because I like tying things up thematically. However, Eggman's goal is similar to Black Doom's. Secure the emerald before the Ark falls, and secure a route to the control room in the hopes that some part of the Ark can stay in orbit. Meanwhile, the hero mission, yep, Vector is staying to round out the Chaotix mini-Ark. We find in the computer room up in this bitch. Naturally, the enemies are also switched up a little. On the dark side, mostly Eggman robots and Shadow androids, with the odd Black Hawk or Black Vault, and Gun is still on the hero side. Now for the connective tissue onto the final bosses and endings. First, Dark into Eggman, and we can keep the Egg Dealer. It's funny and it isn't like Lava Shelter where the final boss is Eggman no matter what, so helping Eggman reach the control room leads to Shadow and Eggman finding a way to preserve some of the Ark, and generally prevent excess damage to the Ark and the Earth alike. But predictably, Eggman pushes his luck, saying that now that the Ark's safety is guaranteed, he should hand over the emerald so he can use the Eclipse Cannon to threaten the world. Shadow tells him that he won't let Eggman misuse Gerald's legacy, and Eggman fires back that Shadow was the one to tarnish his legacy first. A fight ensues, but this time Shadow won't kill Eggman, much like the semi-hero Dark ending in canon. He will say instead, "I am the Professor's legacy, good and ill. You are my creator's grandson, Doctor. I shall let you take your things and leave, never to return. I will know if you've set foot here again, as I shall remain as this Ark's guardian. This is who I am." Meanwhile, the hero ending, honestly it can stay the same for the most part. You help Vector find the room in which the computer is located, then discover Black Doom attempting to access the files. When Shadow asks if Gerald's Faustian deal with him was made, Black Doom confirms it, claims that Shadow's a part of him, and Shadow rejects this as per canon. Black Doom, ironically given what he tries in the last story, will angrily claim that the humans have brainwashed Shadow, and they fight. The battle ends and Shadow, feeling like he's a monster, is in a horrible place. all aboard his former home which is falling apart around him. This is all like canon until Vector's line, because holy shit, "Don't go there yet" is perhaps the worst thing you could say to a suicidal person. No, instead I'm going to make it maybe less punchy and hilarious, but more tonally consistent. Vector will take Shadow aside and say, "Look, Shadow, me, Charmy and SBO, we've been researching the Ark incident. Secret disks, data extraction, even this computer room. We can check for ourselves why you were really made. Stick around just a little longer, Shadow. We'll find out why you were made together." And heck, whether Shadow responds positively to this or just walks away to commit implied suicide could be linked to whether he did any of the previous Chaotix missions, just as a little treat. Here we are, boys, it's Final Haunt, the Pure Hero finale and the last level to account for. Like every final level, this one's amazing. Honestly, it's a toss-up between Lava Shelter and this for my favourite finale. It's just that good. The funky Sonic Adventure 2 guitar, the alien-esque synths, the goofy 50s B-movie sound effects for the Black Arms UFOs. It's a really nice experience, really feels like a triumphant storming of some fucked up alien bastard's base. So let's go over how we can get in, and just like how Gun Fortress is all dark entries, here it's all heroic entries. Hero from Lost Impact will have SBO, Rouge, Wick, Shadow from his memories, only for Sonic to have the Aqua Emerald. He says he's willing to hand it over to Shadow for his collection, but only if he storms the Black Comet with him. As Shadow's presumably had a very hero-oriented path up to this point, he'll say yes, and they go to put an end to Black Doom. Hero from Space Gadget will have Shadow already working with Sonic, having removed the Eggman Empire presence from the Ark. Aqua Chaos Emerald in hand, Sonic thanks Shadow for his help and tells him, "The last 2 emeralds are with the Black Arms. Wanna storm the base and take them?" And Shadow is like, "You blue bitch, I'm in." And they head to the Black Comet. Missions are completely fine. Sonic will be with Shadow from the beginning, happy to help him storm the Black Comet, and when Doom's Eye shows up, he'll be understandably panicked, perhaps saying,
"What are you doing here, Shadow? We must brace for attack. Seal me off using the shield switches."
I want Black Doom to be huffing extra copium, seeing as in this chain of events, Gun will be repelling the Black Arms handily with only a couple of hedgehogs and their mechs, no Eclipse cannon required. However, what is it with the dark ending quote? "I will not allow anyone to set their hand on Black Doom." It's so weird after every alien he's crushed to reach Final Haunt. Nah, I want it to instead be, "Before I take Black Doom down, I have something to settle," which will tie into the outcomes. Speaking of which, Hero, boss and ending are basically unaltered. Shadow and Sonic confront Black Doom together, he gets his ass handed to him, and Shadow renews his vow to protect the world, just as Maria wanted, saying, "With the power of these emeralds, Black Doom is finished." Honestly, given that Shadow is, at least in my view, fundamentally heroic beneath all the grumpy dickery, it makes sense that I have basically no notes for the pure hero ending. All hail Shadow, indeed. Dark boss and ending, meanwhile, that I want to tweak. Because come on, I'm siding with whoever goes against you, Sonic. Right at the last minute just to be a prick? Also, where the fuck did Diabolon come from? Final Haunt has no gun presence and is crawling with Black Arms. Fuck it, the commander doesn't even speak during the boss intro or ending. So fuck it, just like how I had Sonic-less Diabolon in Black Comet, now we have Diabolon-less Sonic. The impetus is simple. Shadow is waiting at the shielded chamber for Sonic to catch up, and Sonic seems confused as to how they'll get through. Shadow admits that he sealed them himself. He wants to make it clear that he's getting the credit for taking Black Doom down. While Sonic distracted himself with Eggman's harmless bullshit during an alien invasion, Shadow's focused on the real threat. Sonic doesn't understand the animosity, but says that if they want to settle this, he's game. From there we can have a Sonic Adventure 2 style final boss with running and homing attacks, and maybe the fact Shadow is willing to use guns might give him the advantage. Once Sonic is defeated, Shadow will deactivate the shields and Black Doom will be like,
"Well done, Shadow. I knew you were on my side."
Right before being effortlessly vanquished. From there, Shadow will do his "I am the ultimate hedgehog" shtick, just like in canon, because fuck it, it's funny and goofy and frankly indicative of the kind of gonzo left turn Shadow would have to make to turn on Sonic at the 11th hour like this. Alrighty, now that I've sorted all the connections, all the outcomes, all the possible path deviations, let's give my new system a go with some test runs, and to make it extra fair, I'll use randomly generated route numbers. First test, 38, enveloped in solitude. So Shadow starts out in Westopolis and is taken in by Black Doom's promises of knowing his past and generally hating Gun. So he goes along with Black Doom's plans and heads into Digital Circuit. He then doubles down on his anti-gun stance by destroying their mainframe, being spat out at Cryptic Castle. However, when he sees the Black Arms attacking Eggman, and it's clear they're going after any defenders of the world, he sides with Eggman. He gives him the 4th Chaos Emerald and convinces him to enter the fray in the battle between the Black Arms Planetside Fleet and the Eggman Imperial Fleet in Sky Troops. However, he lets Eggman and the Black Arms tire each other out for a better bargaining position with the Doctor, sneaking aboard his flagship as it retreats to Iron Jungle. Then he sees the Shadow androids, but is supported by Omega in his efforts to chase down the Doctor for an explanation. Ultimately, he refuses to give in to Eggman's gaslighting thanks to Omega's help. Having attacked Gun, attacked the Black Arms, and grown disenchanted with Eggman, he heads to the Ark, unsure if he'll meet Omega again. Then he's confronted by the Commander and told of his monstrous origins, making him feel even more lost, betrayed and confused. He helps Vector find the computer room! And because he hasn't helped with any of the other Chaotix missions, when he defeats Black Doom, Vector's attempts to tell Shadow to hold off fall on deaf ears, leading to a truly alone and likely dead Shadow. Second test, 169, along with the Ark. Starts with Shadow ignoring Black Doom and Sonic in Westopolis, leading to a pissed off Black Doom scolding him and sending him to Glyphic Canyon. However, this fails to impress Shadow, who blows Black Doom off again to seek a Chaos Emerald. Overhearing a gun soldier he spared talk about the emerald stored at Prison Island, and seeing as this very neutral Shadow sure loves emeralds, this works out nicely. On Prison Island, Shadow once again shows his neutral side and doesn't care about Black Doom's
liberation efforts
or Charmy's data collection. He's there for the emerald, and he overhears a 2 enemy fleet attack alert from a nearby gun computer, leading to Sky Troops. On Sky Troops, however, he finally draws the line in the sand. The Black Arms can't raise a bloody fleet against the world and the Doctor, so he takes the ruins down for Eggman. Despite following Eggman to Space Gadget on cordial terms, he still doesn't want a madman like him in control of the Eclipse Cannon, so he blows him off and ignores Sonic, taking the neutral path to grab another emerald, remaining for Cosmic Fall. Finally, at Cosmic Fall, Eggman asks him for access to the Ark's controls, but this time he swears it's to take control of the Ark's stabilization systems to prevent its fall. Shadow reluctantly helps, but when Eggman pulls his usual entitled bullshit demanding the emeralds and access to the Eclipse Cannon, Shadow trounces Eggman, declares himself the guardian of the Ark, and tells his sorta nephew to get the fuck out. Third and final test, 294, a heart bound by sin. This time, Shadow responds to the Black Arms by helping Sonic repel them, starting out as the heroic but grouchy boy we love. He follows the Black Arms' retreating ship to Lethal Highway and continues to kick their ass while they're down, helping Sonic to the point that he trusts Shadow to help with a raid on an Eggman base. However, Shadow isn't interested in taking Eggman down when there's a bloody alien invasion to account for. Instead, he takes out the gun invaders, a little annoyed that they're wasting resources on the Doctor given the situation. Eggman asks for another favour over in Sky Troops in exchange for information, but Shadow instead decides to let the Black Arms and Eggman Empire soften each other up. The Doctor is more likely to give up the goods when he's desperate. Taking his retreating flagship to Iron Jungle pivots this plan. After seeing the androids that look just like him, Shadow is suddenly insecure. But just like in Route 38, Omega helps Shadow get through it, track the Doctor down, and tell him to go fuck himself when he tries to gaslight him. He then heads to the falling Ark in search of the final emeralds and his purpose, and his ego gets obliterated by the Commander's revelations. So he helps Vector find the computer room, and cements his staunchly anti-Black Arms alignment by beating Black Doom. However, like before, no Chaotix missions, so Vector doesn't get through to Shadow when he concludes that he's a horrible mistake, so once again he walks off overwhelmed by guilt. Well, it's wild that literally every route I randomly selected ended up with a Cosmic Fall ending, but hey, that's how you know it's random, right? Like, I'd 100% want to show off other potential ending levels, but nope, the dice decided this shit. Still, I'm pretty happy with how flexible this turned out, and I would like to think there's a lot clearer cause and effect in this nifty little fanfiction project. Once again, however, let's not devalue the hard work of the OG staff of Shadow the Hedgehog. I'm writing this with almost 20 years of hindsight, I'm not doing this shit for a living or on a deadline, and frankly, I still cribbed the majority of their ideas, I just tweaked them a little. Not one level moved from its position on the morality map. It shows the scenarios were all somewhat plausible for their position, and of course, Black Doom and the Black Arms were so weirdly beloved that basically everyone was happy that it was brought back for Sonic X Shadow Generations. You know what, y'all can rag on this game for being an edgy-hedgy game with gunplay and useless vehicles all you like, but this ain't late 2000s or early 2010s Sonic tubing anymore. Let's not whine about an ancient game made for edgy 11-year-olds, let's celebrate it. I'm going to do the tacky YouTuber thing and say, hey you, person watching, if you've made it this far, sound off about your favourite levels and missions in Our the Edge OG. And hey, why not give the random path tree with my story tweets thing a try and expand on your results in the comments section. I ain't doing this shit for monetization or clout, I just want to know that y'all are having a good time listening to me talk about the things I love. So yeah, I hope you had a good time with the video, and remember to steal candy from babies.
Which is fine by me.